Hi, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. Let's start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have realized in my short time serving.
Dr. McCanty Anthony, please push to talk.
So I've realized a couple things in my short time is in the chair seat. One is that I have to press the button to talk. But two, the only real power that the chair has is that everybody waits for me to start the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, I didn't realize that. So it's very exciting. Welcome. So this is our annual February retreat. So it's not a typical meeting. For folks watching at home, there's no public comment. It's a chance for us as a board to dive in a little more in depth to for certain topics. Most of what we're talking about tonight is not in public. We're going to be in executive session to deal with to talk about several different litigation issues. That sounds more exotic and more interesting than it probably is. Most of what we'll be talking about is special ed litigation. There is the town litigation matter, which we'll be talking about briefly. And then the third issue is around the stadium lights. But there's not a whole lot. So that's where most of what we'll be talking about this evening. But first, before all that, we would welcome our leadership team here and our academic team to talk about academics, which we probably don't talk about enough. You're on camera, Miss Hurst. I understand.
It's not going to reach.
So is the challenges of the Havemeyer infrastructure is not on tonight's infrastructure, but exhibit 107, where the outlets are in this room. All right. So with that said, we're going to turn things over to Mr. D'Amico and his team here to talk about the all things excitement around academics here. So, sir, take it away. Do you have I don't know. I didn't suggest an opening statement this time, but I suspect you have something to frame our conversation.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and it's always a pleasure when I know that I have my entire team. Well, actually, it's not the entire team, but it feels like it because we take up this entire room. We have a large number of administrators present tonight, which is representative, really, of the way that we do business. No one works in silos. The amount of interdependent work really is the hallmark of what makes Greenwich special. And I couldn't be more thrilled that I'm not sitting up here alone anymore, and that I have my assistant chief, Ms. Tara Fogel, sitting alongside me, so that when the really tough questions get asked, I can certainly just turn to her and say, well, it's time for you to show your stuff. So tonight, I'm hoping somebody asks me a question that I don't have the answer for, or maybe I have the answer for, but we're just going to see how Ms. Fogel does with this group. So welcome Ms. Fogel as the assistant chief. But really, tonight—
We're going to send all Lucy Calkins questions to Karen.
We had a bet on how long it would take you to mention her. Tonight, it really is my privilege, and I'm incredibly proud of the work that we're going to take you through and share with the community. But I have to recognize that not only are the people in this room responsible for these efforts, but all of our building administrators, our coordinators, and most importantly, our teachers. So to all of them who may be logged in, thank you for your efforts. And most importantly, thank you for your trust. Dr. McCanty Anthony did mention Lucy Calkins, and I know that there are some people out there who still have concerns about the fact that we use some of the materials associated with her name. But I will gladly enter into that debate later on with Dr. McCanty Anthony and the board conversation. But our teachers trust this team to make good decisions, not only for them, but for their students. And we take that responsibility incredibly seriously. And over the 6 years since I've been in this seat, I've always reminded myself where I come from. I was a fourth grade teacher for a long time, and then I was a collab teacher. So I worked with a special education teacher. Then I had the privilege of working in the advanced learning program for a while. And so I believe that what's most important is that we give the teachers what they need to be successful. And so my mission has always been since day one to provide teachers with curriculum resources that are appropriate, that are thorough, that are consistent, so that all students in the Greenwich Public Schools can leave the Greenwich Public Schools ready for the world. And so I'm quite proud of what we've accomplished over the years. And tonight, we're going to talk about celebrations in terms of academic achievement, but more importantly, we're going to talk to you about how those achievements came to be. So we want to pull the curtain back a little bit. So as I said in the narration of the 30-minute flipped video, which I'm sure all of you watched, although I still can't figure out how to track whether or not it was all of you who watched it, but we did have 33 plus views the last time I checked, so I'm feeling really good about that. Could be a record. But really what I share in that video is that, you know, the collective work of the Greenwich Public Schools administrators and teachers is on full display, and we're proud of that work and the results that we're seeing. And I firmly believe that last year's results are just the beginning of what we believe is a positive trend. And I couldn't be more proud. So with that, actually, Chairman, I turn it back to you I have a wondering about which way you'd like the direction of this to go. I know we have a hard stop at 7 and we have 60 plus slides.
Right, and technically, so I actually appreciate that you made it one slide deck, even though it's technically 2 agenda items.
Yeah.
So that made sense, especially since there's some overlap now. But we probably, I was thinking about this myself, and since we have Ms. Vogel here, we probably should follow the agenda item, in case people plan their evenings around it. At home and watching. So we probably should talk about math and science first, and then we'll go to ELA. It probably makes no sense.
Happy to do that, and let me throw another wrinkle in that. Not knowing which way you wanted to go, Ms. Vogel did prepare an abridged version of the slide deck so that we could pull up any one particular slide, or we could take you through a series of slides, anything that might have piqued your interest or you have questions on. Ms. Vogel's driving, so she can pull up anything that you'd like. But if you have questions, we're happy to get right into that as well.
And if you, Tara, if you feel the slide deck can give like a 3 to 5 minute executive summary here, or at least frame the conversation, how's that sound?
I would say it's a little bit more than 3 to 5 minutes, but I can certainly give you the overview of where our roadmap really came from, and then I think it will make sense to break out into our individual content areas. So I'll go ahead and pull that up right now. And hold on one moment. All right, and Mike, can you confirm that you can see everything on the screen? All righty. So as Mark explained, this is oh, I think I'm actually live. Yes. Okay, perfect. As Mark explained, this is a little bit of an atypical report, mostly because we are not at the point in the school year where we currently have interim data to show you. So since that interim data is not available for us to dissect and dig a little bit deeper into, we wanted to pull the curtains back and help us better understand the achievements report that was presented in October to half of the board who is here, and then we have half of a new board. really educate all of our members for how we got those achievement results through curriculum management, through the work of our coordinator team and our building leaders. So before we get to the roadmap of our overall success, it's important to set this in the framework of the 6 pieces of our district work that really move into curriculum instruction and assessment. That's going to be our levers for growth, our recap of points of pride. We'll dig into curriculum, instruction, assessment, and action by each content area. And finally, go ahead and recap those achievement successes that we did in October. And if we look specifically at the 6 levers for our growth, we're first starting with our eyes on all students. We are focused on our students that are the highest achievers, the students who need the most support, and everybody in between. This includes pockets of students in the MTSS framework with tiered instruction, pockets of students in our advanced learning programs, AP courses, as well as our on-level students. We established priority schools last year to help focus our supports where they're needed most. We have highly qualified coordinators and program administrators looking over content and supporting building leaders. We have a dedicated system of professional learning district-wide. And we have a renewed focus on using our building administrators and assistant principals as instructional leaders in the building. We support them with professional learning and consultancy supports. And finally, all of that is in the framework of the strategic plan that we were gifted by you guys. That plan brings us through 2028, and we're continuing to stay laser focused on the stretch goals outlined there. Tonight, I have a feeling we're going to dig a little bit more into these 3 particular areas. The roadmap to our achievement comes from curriculum, instruction, assessment, and acting on those assessment results. We are going to go over our curriculum management planning and curricular investments. And I think the next portion of this abridged version of our slideshow is really where we will break into the math and science. My slides have ELA coming up first, but I'm going to go ahead and move right over to math and science. It is important for all of us to understand our curriculum management cycle. Our cycle always begins with a review or renewal phase where we have understood that curriculum areas have materials that are either outdated or no longer meet the standards that the state or our national government is requiring us to meet. Then we conduct what's called an internal audit. And internal audits can look different in different curriculum areas or grade levels based on the needs of the course or the program. We're collecting feedback from our teachers. We're overall looking at achievement results and seeing if our current programs are meeting the needs. And then we're also going to be speaking with administrators to see how they feel as though programs or resources are working in buildings. After an internal audit, we go ahead and determine whether or not we need to move on to look at other opportunities or if we're going to renew existing programs. Then, if we are looking at different opportunities, we'll go ahead and purchase using a board-supported review committee, and then we'll bring that to the board once we decide on a recommendation to move forward. And finally, we enter implementation and progress monitoring, where we check to see how is this going for teachers and for students, and we are evaluating our assessment results based on the new curriculum or primary resources. Now, our district has continued to invest in curricular resources and associated professional learning across all content areas. And we're going to take a look at the past few years to figure out how we got to where we are today. Our curriculum management planning looks into the future, but we thought it was important to also look back to see how we continue to have these strong growth and achievement results. So I'll fast forward through ELA, and I will pull up to math. Do we want Mike to take it away, or did you want to dig into some question and answer?
Don't touch that.
Good. Okay. Not touching. Okay. So this timeline actually lines up perfectly with my tenure in this role. So my predecessor was actually the one who was chairing the committee that chose the program that we currently use now, which is Big Ideas Mathematics. And so I had the fortunate experience of coming in as a new coordinator and having to roll out a brand new program, which was exciting and challenging all at the same time. So when you look here at this chart that we have up on the screen, you can see we've like slowly integrated little refinements and other programs to support our learners. So everything is kind of built around Big Ideas and IXL. And then from there, we started to identify certain needs and things that we needed to have happen. We integrated math interventionists into our staffing model. And so Bridges Intervention is a research-backed program that we use, and we started that in 2022, 23. And then we started to trial what we currently use now for math facts, which is through the Explore Learning program. So Reflex, that's for math facts, addition, subtraction facts for our little ones, multiplication facts for our third graders and up. And then part of Explore Learning with Reflex is the FRAX program, which is helping students develop fractional sense. It's important to understand that with these digital partners that we don't have kids on devices all day long. We're using these to be very precise in the decisions that we make to support our students. So, for example, Reflex will meet students where they are. It will focus on the actual facts that they need to learn. It will give the teacher that data real time, so the teacher knows exactly what they need to do to support that student. Generally speaking, in elementary school, we use a station rotation model, and that model essentially encompasses 3 blocks of time. So we use the MATH acronym to support that time. So M being meet with your teacher, A being at your seat, and then the TH is technology or hands-on. So in that 15 minutes or so where students are in their technology or potentially hands-on, meaning no technology station, they might be working on Reflex, they might be working on FRAX, depending on the grade level, or they might be working in IXL to work on very specific skills that they need to hone. We then started to integrate building thinking classrooms, which is a model that we're utilizing to help essentially transfer the cognitive load from the teacher to the students. If you all can think back to your time in the classroom, teachers were lecturers and they gave us a lot of information and we practiced a whole bunch and then we moved on to the next thing. Well, we want the kids to lift those sort of heavy concepts themselves. And so building thinking classrooms provides that framework for us. And I can get into more detail on that if people have questions about it. And then we started to refine our intervention process by doing a bunch of professional development on dyscalculia, which is essentially students with math disabilities that struggle. And so we've been working over the last few years. It's quite I would say, a robust and long-term certification process. And I would say it's a newer area of focus, and we're sort of right at the tip of the spear with that. And so our math interventionists are slowly getting certified in being able to identify and remediate students that have issues in mathematics, more discreetly. So that's pre-K to 5 in a nutshell. I'm not sure if you want me to continue on to the next grade level or if we want to. Okay. All right. So in 6 through 8, you can see we have some of the things that are the same, but then we have some different things going on here. So the through thread across all of it is going to be big ideas math, IXL, and building thinking classrooms. You'll see Reflex in there. We've started to leverage that for our students that still have struggles with their facts in 6th grade. It's not really going beyond 6th grade, but we identified in some of our buildings that we wanted to practice some more with our facts. And the reason why facts are so important is because it frees up working memory for our students to be problem solvers as opposed to grinding out. Do I remember what is our favorite new fact? 6 times 7, in case you don't know. Anyway, so we have that. And then a few years ago, Western reached out about an opportunity to work with a company called Prisms, where it's a virtual reality and it's an opportunity to actually see the math in sort of 3D. And so we use that for things like seeing how exponential functions work, quadratics, systems of equations, things like that. Again, I want to be very clear. We don't have kids on virtual reality all day, every day for 42 minutes in a middle school block. It's a periodic thing. And we're giving our students at Western an opportunity to really see some cool math in a way that maybe they might not be able to, based on their family structure and things like that. So that's 6-8 math in a nutshell.
I think we'll pause here for questions. It looked like some people wanted to chime in.
Great. Look, before I dive into my question, I first wanted to say, certainly we're all incredibly proud of the overall district performance. But when I drill down into the details, I notice a few concerning trends, and I wanted to hear your thoughts. When I compare Greenwich to other districts, I see a notable drop off in our SBA math scores in the middle school level that I don't see in other districts, and I'm happy to share the analysis I did. We go from our fifth graders, 83% of them being on target or above. We dropped to 70, 72% in seventh and eighth grade. When I look at the other districts, they're holding steady at their fifth grade levels. And then, also when I look at the math results on a school basis, EMS looks great, but about 40% of CMS and WMS eighth graders in their SBA testing are below target. 40% are leaving eighth grade, going into ninth grade, not having mastered middle school math. So I have two questions. One is Big Ideas math just not adequate to meet the needs of kids in those grades or possibly before? And two, is the strategic plan goal of getting 75% of kids into algebra by eighth grade pushing some kids faster they can go, and then they're missing fundamental concepts that build and leaving them in a tough spot by the time they get into eighth grade?
Great questions. So the first one, when you're referring to that sort of drop off as we go from elementary school to middle school, as you can see in our achievement, we actually are sort of stopping that slide slowly over time. So if you actually look at that in sixth, seventh, and eighth, you're seeing sort of a steady trend going upwards. Maybe it's not at the pace that you're thinking, but if we look at sixth grade, for example, in 2021, 61 to 64 to 69 to 72 to 76. It's middle school is a tricky one. Tara has always said to me, having been a middle school teacher herself, that there's a lot of things that are happening in middle school, the way kids grow, both academically, social, emotionally, and mentally. And so, we do our best to keep them engaged. But what I will say is, when you're referring to Western and Central, we have a lot of things in place there to support our kids. We're doing things a little bit differently this year in Western. We've given all of our on-level kiddos essentially a math and a half block. And so one of the things that's important to note is that we have a pretty slim amount of time in our middle school structure for math. We have 42 minutes, generally speaking. And in our middle schools, we usually have double blocks of English language arts in sixth grade, and then moving on to seventh and eighth. So the first thing I would say is the gift of time would be lovely, because 42 minutes to do the math is kind of tricky. And that actually plays all the way down to elementary school as well. We have double the time, if not more, for language arts. And so that's my little plug for math. If we had more time, most programs are designed for 75 minutes. This program is as well. And a lot of districts have 90 minutes of math in the elementary level. And then when they get to the middle school level, I can't speak intelligently on every single setup, but I know they may or may not have more time. Sometimes we run into staffing challenges too. I will say at Central, we've had a struggle with our interventionists over the last few years because we've had to use our interventionists to fill a spot of a teacher that maybe had to leave or whatever the case may be. And so then sometimes we're kind of operating without that extra support that we may need. What I would say is I feel confident that we are building steady progress, and I wouldn't even call it slow. I think it's been pretty steady. And also, as we feed from the elementary school to the middle school, we are taking kiddos that are that much stronger and bringing them into the middle school level with more skills, maybe having their facts nailed down, things like that, where we can focus a little bit more. When it comes to Big Ideas math, really to me, math is math. I think every program has certain qualities that are wonderful and maybe certain holes where you have to fill things in. but it comes down to the instruction of our teachers. I think so far Big Ideas has been something that's been really great for our district, as you know, as I'm glancing at the performance as it's increasing. I would say that oftentimes, when we start to compare Eastern to Western to Central, we can kind of get into a point where we struggle with things that we can't control that are outside of the school day. And so we do our best to try to support those kids when they're at school, but the things that are happening at home is where it becomes tricky.
I don't think you addressed I don't think you addressed the second part of my question about whether the 75% of kids in algebra by eighth was potentially pushing certain kids faster than they can handle.
I think the answer to that would be yes. There are some opportunities sometimes missed when a student maybe is accelerated too quickly. But that being said, we want to set the bar high for our kids. And so when we put those kids into those tracks, we try to provide supports for them, specifically at Western. With our staffing model, we're able to enrich the kiddos by putting them into a extra period on a pattern basis to support them when we want to push them up. And so we try to take our kiddos that we think have potential, cuspy is sometimes a word that we use, and we try to push them into a situation where they're going to be supported, but also challenged at the same time. I think, with the way the SAT is going now and more higher level math on it, I think it's not necessarily something that we would want to not push towards. I think getting kids through algebra by the end of eighth grade is an important thing for their success once they get to the high school. That being said, I think we do a great job supporting all of our students where they are, and we make adjustments when we need to, whether it's to push them up or to potentially lower maybe them down a level to support their needs. So we try to work each little jigsaw puzzle as they come to us.
I'm just thinking that Big Ideas Math, I think, was started about 5 years ago. So the students that were coming through the elementary school have really benefited from that basically since kindergarten, whereas the kids that we see in middle school they didn't have that sort of kindergarten, first, second grade. So I'm hoping that, or I guess the question I have is, do you attribute some of the success of our K through 5 kids that they've had the benefit of having that program in place? And do you think that as a result, they'll be more successful in middle school, because they've had it from the beginning?
I definitely believe that. And I would actually just like to remind you that we have it into the early parts of the high school as well. And so we have this uniformity now where the students are able to sort of develop a schema and an understanding of certain visuals and things, and they're able to sort of rely on that from year to year to year, as opposed to jumping from one thing to the next. So I think that uniformity that Mr. D'Amico has spoken about, in the past, is a really important thing for our students to feel not only comfortable, but successful, because they don't have to code switch between various programs.
Well, Sophie took one of my focused questions and things, mostly because I was pretty involved in doing the review when you guys picked Big Ideas Math. So I also wanted to echo these results are really fantastic. And I have a bunch of overall questions. So I can just I'll ask one of them. Maybe you guys can weave them in maybe as you answer. I know we don't have any additional state data from the summer. You guys gave that to us earlier, which is where we've seen a lot of these great math and ELA growth scores. Additionally, the fact that we have, 11, 12 of our schools that are, ranked in this with the state, as high growth schools, which is fantastic. I was going back to the pre-K 5 math, and I was curious, you started to briefly talk a little bit about reflex. You also mentioned in the document and the presentation FRAX. I'm not really, these are new terms to me because we really haven't gone over these or discussed them in prior board meetings. So I was just going to take a tiny little step back and just figure out, are these apps or programs? I know Big Ideas Math came with a lot of those game-based educational supports for students to use at home and in the classroom for extra support with parents, to help parents also work with our students. So I was just wondering if I assume these are not part of the Big Idea Math grouping of programs. And what led you guys to pick FRAX and Reflex as opposed to the games and other skill building materials that are already included in Big Ideas? Like, where are you seeing how this is supporting the students there?
So two things there. I'll sort of use the second part of what you said first. What we really like about it is the pinpoint accuracy that it has for our students. So any one of us would go into that platform, be assessed. It would figure out what we need to work on. It would then help us build those skills. And depending on the student, you might be working on 6x7 facts. You might be working on your 5 facts, right? Whatever the facts are. And so it gives us very specific data about what the kid needs to work on. That then helps us figure out how to support that kiddo. So oftentimes when we're trying to learn facts, we don't actually just learn them rotely. We will break them apart into other things that we know. So again, to use our favorite 7x6, we could break that 5 and that 7 apart into that 7 apart into a 5 and a 2, which would be things that we might have memorized already, 5x6 and 2x6, and then we can put those back together. So we like it because of the data aspect of it. Why did we come to it? I had teachers all over the district asking for it. Can we try it? Can we try it? Can we try it? I came to the powers that be. I said, could we give this a trial? And they said, absolutely. So we tried it out originally at Hamilton Avenue, ISD, and Julian Curtis. And across the board, all 3 schools were like, we need this because not only are the kids engaged by it, but we're noticing that their working memory is now freed up to do more tricky tasks. And so, the average kiddo might spend anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes on it. Kids that have struggles might need a little bit more, like 20 minutes on it. We do it a couple of times a week. I know some teachers have started to send it home for homework, but it's having a profound effect on our ability to be problem solvers.
And it works in tandem with all the programs and the instructional techniques and things through Big Idea Math?
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't address that part of it. So Big Ideas Math, the practice for the facts, is not providing specific data. They're just games. So it'd be just like using your fraction cards. Unless you were putting them in piles where you're like, we need to keep working on these, you're not getting real data back. Whereas in this case, we're getting data back that this kiddo is still struggling on their x9s. And so we're going to remediate that. And it's not always through the program. It might be in a small strategy group with other kids that are also having struggles with their x9s. This is mostly happening in 3rd grade. Then what ends up happening is you're supposed to have those mastered by the end of 3rd grade. And so by 4th and 5th grade, if you don't have them mastered, you might still be using the platform. But really at that point, you don't need to be using the platform if you have them memorized.
Okay, that works. I remember way back in Glenville, memorization. But the one question I did have though then is, is this, because we are getting growth data from these types of programs and other assessments that are given in school. Can you see the increases in growth and stand out in the scores? Are they really linked? Can you show that they're linked to Big Ideas Math? Because that would be fantastic. Like Sophie said, you don't have to give us actual data now, but I'd love to be able to see that if we can.
I'm cognizant of the time here, and we could easily spend all of it on math. Okay, all right, and Bob had a comment too. So, okay, Wendy.
Yeah, I have a question too. Are we concerned that utilizing games, even if they have high educational outcomes in the short term, motivates children to learn for the wrong reasons? Are we encouraging accumulation of points and rankings and stars and virtual stickers instead of fostering curiosity? Right? Like with Reflex, I understand that it generates tokens used to decorate your virtual tree. You really think that this is the best way for them to learn?
All I can speak to is the success that we've had with it. It might not be the best way. There could be something out there that we don't know. But what I do know is that it allows the teacher to be able to focus on small groups of kids while they know that the other students that are focusing on their facts are getting very streamlined, precise instruction. And so there could be something better out there. And if we come across it, we will certainly utilize it. But right now it's been very successful. The teachers are very happy with it. And I think just motivating kids to want to do the math and memorize the facts is a tricky thing, and this does motivate them.
Well, I think these, some of these questions are, well, the curriculum committee I know met earlier this week, and I know one of the themes that we're going to be seeing probably over the course of the winter and spring is this growing community concern around screen time. And I think that's where we're getting some of these questions from. So we're not going to solve all these issues tonight, but I suspect that's part of an ongoing conversation we're going to having. Bob?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I'm not sure if it's for you or for Mark or whoever. I just wanted to say that the missing interventionist, do you feel like this might affect, like some of the missing in some of the schools might affect some of the cuspies and people as they aren't able to break out for specific. I'm sure this is not just a math thing, it's ELA, it's kind of across the board. That's why it might be more for you, Mark. Do you feel like, I guess, some staffing issues might?
Sure, staffing issues certainly have to be taken into consideration when we're looking at overall student performance. You know, math interventionists were put in place because we recognize the need for their expertise. And so when we do without that particular role, you can expect there to be a negative impact.
Does anybody have any urgent questions to this topic when it comes to high school math?
I will note that Mr. Byrne is unfortunately unable to be here tonight. He's boarding a plane with the students to go to Spain. Is that right, Mr. Mayo? Correct.
Don't forget Morocco.
Morocco as well. So he sends his regards. Ms. Talata's here in his place if you do have any high school math questions in specific.
One of them is, goes over for both ELA and math, and I'll just pose it now. It's not something that you can necessarily answer, but I'd love to have you guys wrap your brain, sort of give us some thought behind some of it. You guys were talking also about the 11th grade SAT, the improvements we've seen there, the fact that we've seen more students taking APs and getting higher scores there as well. I'd really love to know if we have tracked or can track the number of students that are submitting AP scores to colleges and the college credits that they're getting for those. I know there's a lot of, it's really valuable for a lot of students to have that understanding, especially when making choices on courses where they can do, show success and see what they're doing in their PSATs and the other training assessments that we're giving them in earlier years in high school. Allows a lot of students to graduate early. It saves them a lot of money when they go off to college, as well as allows a lot of students to have minors or a double major. So I think it's really something that we should keep a little bit of an eye on as we're moving forward, especially since it was something you guys mentioned in your presentation. But I don't think you'll have an answer today. I just wanted to put it out there.
Thank you.
You want to talk science for 10 minutes?
I would love to talk science for 10 minutes, but I'm sure Ms. Palladino would also love to talk ELA for 10 minutes. So I think we'll kind of talk through the overarches with K-8 science. K-8 science is in a really good place. And like Mike, I will nod to my predecessor who set us up for early implementation of NGSS and did a lot of the groundwork for providing teachers with instructional support to look at teaching and learning from 3 dimensions early on. Since then, we have increased students' hands-on materials, both from the general ed classroom, K-5, but also the integration with our library and media specialists and our maker spaces across our building. We have introduced the science side of the simulation platform on Explore Learning, which we started in 2022 called Gizmos in 3-5. We already had it in 6-12, and we started using it with our ALP learners in 3-5 first, and they found such success because it so closely matches the simulations that are posed to students on the grade 5 NGSS test. I consider that to be one of the greatest levers for change in terms of our students' ability to navigate a really tricky platform on the grade 5 NGSS test. And I urge all of you to try out that practice test online. It's available for free on the state website. Yeah, enjoy 7 questions that are very tricky. We are currently in year 2 of our 3-year realignment. And what realignment means is when my predecessor did bring NGSS to our district early on, she didn't want to change the instructional load and the cognitive content load of teachers at the same time. So if content was in a grade level, she left it there and she just helped the teachers to teach it in a 3-dimensional model. What I've been doing over time is following 2 cohorts of students, our current 1st graders and our current 4th graders, to restructure and put the standards back in the right grade level. So I've talked about this last year, this year, and then again next year. my successor will be able to finish that project as we have new units in 2nd and 5th grade. And that will be the end of that project. In the 6-8 lens, we continue to see incredibly strong results in our middle school. We also have gizmos there, which we have been using for about 6 years now. But we added an assessment platform last year called Inner Orbit. Inner Orbit is an exciting assessment platform because it does look at 3-dimensional learning, and it's something that we can isolate strands of science and engineering practices, cross-cutting concepts, and the content that teachers teach to drill down to see skill gaps and content gaps and address those, similar to the 8th grade NGSS assessment. And I think the only other thing I would add is that we've also incorporated Pocket Lab, which is a hands-on material to have quicker access to probes and measurement materials for our hands-on inquiry lab activities that are happening. I'm most excited tonight to introduce Amy Farnham, who is currently working as our interim 9 through 12 science program administrator right now. And I would love for her to go ahead and share at the 9-12 science, if that's okay with you all.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tara, and nice to meet all of you. I was lucky enough to be on the development team early on with NGSS, and as Tara said, we were very early adopters, which led to our district being a leader in science education. And I know when we visit NSTA, we all walk away saying we need to be running the sessions. Greenwich is in a really amazing place.
Which is exciting because Amy is running one this year.
So we started with early adoption with 3-dimensional units, and we built on it as soon as Connecticut released items for assessment. We added those in and we dug into what does a 3-dimensional assessment look like. And so tying in the cross-cutting concepts with the science and engineering practices and then content. So making sure that our students can think and perform like scientists. And then you could see that we added on UDL supports. Sean did a great job leading that, and we put together, a website for easy access to UDL supports for our students in the classroom. And then our newest projects with the investment in Pocket Labs and Vernier probes, we were able to have our students collecting authentic data around our campus and in our classrooms and really digging into analyzing that data. With those new tools, we were able to also begin to introduce vertical whiteboarding and building thinking classrooms and throwing those graphs up on the board and really having great, rich discussions in our science classrooms about how do we display data? How do we make meaning out of data? And what trends are we seeing? And what patterns do we notice? So with the addition of building thinking classrooms, we then added Switchits with Paul Anderson, which you're going to see the slide in a little bit, where you could see our students really thinking through problems authentically. They don't have resources in front of them when they do this. They are collaborating and adding on their ideas to show all of the different connections. So in those pictures, you could really see the cross-cutting concepts come alive with the cause-effect relationships and tying together a lot of different pieces of information, transferring their knowledge, and really being able to explain very complex problems in our classrooms. So this is what science looks like today. And Inner Orbit, which Tara did mention, our formative assessment platform, which we can use both as formative assessment. We take it in the beginning of the year, and then we look at mid-year data, and we look at end-of-year data and analyze trends. We're able to see where are our students struggling. So right now, I know that our students are working on asking scientific questions, but they're doing really great with analyzing data and constructing explanations. We also are able to use it in the classroom. You could filter out what is a classroom task versus what are these really meaningful assessments where we're going to look at the data. So students are able to take those assessments either collaboratively and really talk through answers, which is exciting because they can build on each other, and that's where they learn a lot, and that's so they're able to use that platform both in the classroom with instruction. We use it with vertical whiteboarding as well, thinking through those ideas, because the platform isn't just multiple choice questions. They have reading, they have graphs, they have data that they need to use to solve really challenging problems. So that platform is exciting. It's both an instructional tool and it gives us the data that we need to make informed classroom decisions.
Speaking of reading, I don't want to sell our reading department short, and I keep looking at that clock, knowing what happens at 7. Can we do a switch? Sure. Great.
Thank you
Yeah.
much.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
Tim Palladino and Bridget Barry.
You want to give us the 2-minute executive summary?
I think Bridget reading deserves as much time and energy as everyone else, but I think might be helpful is if we kind of go through the investments that we've made pre-K 12, because I think that is part of the bigger conversation here, and then directly look at those slides that have our scores from the last 5 years. I think it'll paint a nice picture that will allow us to have a short discussion. So as you can see, we've made a lot of investments in our early literacy programming in the last 6.5 years. Notably, we've talked about Foundations, which is our phonics program that we implemented over a multi-year implementation period, and ending with a pre-K 3 really consistent, explicit scope and sequence of how we introduce phonics to our students. We've also before that, we had holes in phonics instruction. We had holes in phonemic awareness instruction. As you can see, we've added in a phonemic awareness curricular component that the teachers feel has really done a nice job aligning all of the other components of our comprehensive approach to reading. We've talked about geodes over the years, which for new board members are our knowledge building decodable texts that align with the scope and sequence. So kids are getting accountable practice in decodable texts early on to build fluency early so that we can move them on to harder reading comprehension tasks as we go. We have updated our K2 reading and writing units that align more with the other components of our comprehensive literacy approach. And all of those components weave together, and teachers are seeing through lines to all of those pieces that we have in place. In our upper grades, we've implemented vocabulary workshop and grammar workshop. And we've also started to upgrade our writing units of study, which is what we're currently doing as well. We've integrated use of IABs in 3 through 8, which we'll see in a little bit. But as you can see, we've made a lot of changes, and not only are we investing in our curricular resources that make our strong foundation of literacy happen, is we're investing in our teachers and we're providing them professional learning opportunities in school, out of school, over time, coaching opportunities as well, in which they have time to practice those new learning in an environment where they can ask questions, they can get feedback, and they feel supported. And I think that is something we might not always talk about. We talk about scores, we talk about curriculum, but the professional development of our teachers is our most valuable resource, and they have nailed it, as you can see as we kind of go into our next slides, and we can maybe
Before you pass the slide,
Sure.
mine, because I think it's worth pointing out to both the public and everybody just how remarkable this slide is. I would argue that I think I did in the email this morning that this is of all the slides, not to put shade on anybody else, but of all the slides in the 30-minute video, this is probably the most impressive, and you don't realize it looking at it. I mean, I remember as in 2017. 2018, 2019, having conversations with parents throughout the community. And the conversation was, what do you mean we're not doing this? And what do you mean we don't have that? And how do we not have that? There's no this program. And to say that this is a complete 180 from where the district has gone from, because of, I think we can blame superintendent churn. really is why, because we had so many superintendents in so more short a period of time, right? But where we were behind the times, really, to ahead, in many ways, and a leader, is really remarkable in a number of these programs. So
Well, we have to thank our ARP money, our board. We have to thank our teachers for taking this on in a very compressed timeline. We knew we needed it. And I think the teachers will tell you that it was worth it in the end because of what they're seeing in their classrooms. And when we get hopefully quickly to that slide, you'll see the scores to support all of the commitments that we've made to our town and our students and our teachers.
I just did a quick one before we move on to middle school on D-Bowls, because I know we talked about it. We've been talking about it for so many years, but we really haven't gotten any updates on it since like 2024. Are we still using, I just want to make sure, are we still using it as a screener? Has it helped with growth? And are we catching more students early? I think that's really important for us to know because it was such a big thing. I know Mike and I were very focused on it for a long time. So I wanted to just.
Yes, we are still using Dibbles. We're in our 3rd year of implementation of that. And yes, it is helping us to catch kids earlier.
Great. Would love to get an update, not tonight, but at some point. Yep.
In 6 through 8, we in the last 4 years have updated our reading units, our writing units, and accompanying materials. We've made a commitment to using exposing our students to the IAB platform, which helps them prepare for the SBA. And we have put a lot of emphasis this year on making sure that we have targeted data through the IXL platform. We're getting targeted data so that teachers can know where our skill deficits are and improve outcomes for students by understanding where students are, where they need to grow, and what specific thread of English language arts is at a deficit so that we can fill those gaps and move on. You can keep going.
Sure. If you look at the 9-12 curriculum, resources and professional learning, you should note that a heavy focus is on ensuring alignment and rigor in all of the courses. So in the 22-23 school year, we worked on foundational structures. We made a significant grammar framework, and we worked on some literature circles. And the next year, we focused on our 300 level and our essay writing courses and grammar implementation, the actual implementation of the framework with fidelity. And the following year, we continued to strengthen alignment, and we really lasered in on SAT focused work in that year and attended National PD. And these plates are still being juggled. We haven't dropped anything, the SAT, and so far this year, we're finalizing a new course. It's a nonfiction course proposal, and we're refining the 9th grade curriculum and study skills. And in the PD, we are focusing on how to use AI to support instruction.
I think it might be helpful. Tara's going to have to really scroll through, but I think what's important to note in all of the things that we've done pre-K-12 is we've set our students up without having gaps and holes for the first time in a long time. And so you can see our improvement in our scores. This is just post-COVID data. I will tell you that our 3, 4, 5 students have scored the highest they've ever scored on this assessment since it was created. Our cohort growth between our elementary specifically is very, very strong. If you look at the same cohort of kids over time, some fun facts, our 3rd graders are ranked 5th in the state. Our 4th graders are ranked 6th in the state, and our 5th graders, or last year's 5th graders, current 6th graders, are ranked 2nd in the state, right under New Canaan. Our current 6th graders, 5th graders on this chart were our first cohort of kids to go through our Foundations program. Our current 6th graders, 5th graders on this screen were the first kids to go through. So it's only going to get better from there because we've filled other gaps and holes along the way. Our middle school, our 6th graders, they're still killing it, and they were 10th in the state. As we fill gaps and holes in 6th, 7th, and 8th, and as we bring up these cohorts of kids that have strong literacy foundations, you're going to see that improvement. And if you flip to the next slide, we talked about Dibbles. These are our last 2 years end of year scores. So we're seeing our kids with the current programming that is cohesive, that has been in place for the last 2 or 3 years, they're coming at end of year, year over year, with high achievement, low risk across the board. And we just closed our window the other day. Our scores are on track to be on par with those red, to meet or exceed those in each of the grade levels. So I think we're seeing the fruits of all of the labor of the past, and pieces are coming together. Teachers are feeling more confident, and kids are moving up in grades with a solid literacy foundation.
So, okay, let me go back. Let me go back to one of my classic hits here. So I agree. So for all these reasons, I guess when we're thinking about ninth grade, right? Because we've got this wave of students with foundational literacy skills coming through in the sixth grade. We've got a new ninth grade curriculum. We know we have, certain students that join us later that don't have all those things. So for all those reasons, I can't help but continue to wonder about, and because of the success we see about the DIBELS and the DIBELS conversation, when we think about how we're building this ninth grade curriculum and the place for a universal screener in ninth grade to make sure we're catching not only the students that are lacking the low-level reading skills on those foundational skills, but also the student in ninth grade who might be reading at a seventh grade level. I think you mentioned, but it will still have about 20 to 25% of our ninth graders coming into ninth grade not proficient on we're very high in state, but we still have about a fifth of our kids not proficient coming into high school on that test. Not all of those students are classified and getting direct specialized instruction. So how we're shaping that program to meet students where they are, I think is something, I know you're working on that, but I can't but think that's something we need to continue to think about.
Well, we do
I'm
have,
sure I hit somebody's pool there.
we have plenty of benchmarks and assessments and so on, but it's also the fact that we're not afraid to have more information on students, more data that will tell us, ensure no students left behind. So I'm currently looking with our K-12 reading specialist, Jocelyn Bruckman, to see, is there some kind of an effective screener we can use to give us another layer of data? And we've thought maybe the STARS. She has another thing that she has, is FastBridge she's looking into. We just want it to be, we don't want to take away a lot of time from instruction. We have a lot of other measurements as we go, but it would be very helpful to have something universal just to ensure, as you said, incoming kids, some student who's slipped under the radar. So we are looking into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hear about the not taking away assessment things, but I think whatever you, I think whatever you pick, you got to pick something that gives you a reading level, like as is this discrete, and then that way you can drill down and use other screeners and things. But this student who's 2 years behind, or this student who's 3 years behind, something really specific is helpful. But other questions?
We've spent a lot of this session talking about the kids who are struggling and how we're getting them up to grade level. Can we switch gears a little bit and talk about what we're doing for our on-track kids and for our students, our high-achieving students who need ALP and honors and AP? Are we making sure we're measuring their growth? I played around a little bit with the state, what was it called? The trajectory tool. And I could only see in aggregate, it looks like we're falling off the curve that the state projects. Could we get more of a fine-grained cut by cohort of special ed, gen ed, and then ALP honors and look at those growth trends by cohort and just make sure we're serving all of the needs across the spectrum? I noticed a lot of the metrics were on the struggling kids.
We could do that.
Can we look at the next slide as well? I just wanted to note, you can see in the 11th grade SAT, we had this last year was a 4-year high. I do want to note, we're working hard in our ELA classes, but the test is evidence-based reading and writing. So we're working with social studies, we're working with world language. We're all teachers of reading. And of looking for solid evidence. And so that's a universal effort.
Sorry, just to qualify, my question was a math and English, and the falling off the curve may have been more of a math thing. So
If you
I
want,
looked at it a while ago. I just
yeah, if you
didn't
want to
wanna-
email Dr. Jones with your specifics so that
Will
we
do.
can be comprehensive with our response.
Go ahead.
This is just a comment. And again, like I brought this up a little earlier, and I would love to just sort of see some of the tracking, especially like we're talking about, we've given these tests to students, to give them practice in ninth grade, the PSAT and so forth going forward. More and more colleges, I mean, especially this year, are turning back to standardized testing as a measurement of impact for making decisions on whether to accept students. So I really, really, really think it's really important for us to take another deep dive back into this and to these scores, because we want to make sure we give these students, one of our strategic plan goals is to increase graduation rates and give them success once they leave our halls. How we're going to do that to support students here, because for the past several years they've thought they're optional. Even when colleges are saying they are optional, they are not optional at all. Kids that are not giving tests scores are not getting in. And they're shocked. So I want to make sure we don't have our kids surprised by that fact.
Yeah, I just want to mention pre-K because we haven't mentioned them tonight. And I think when you look at the chart, we realized that our children coming into kindergarten weren't where we really thought that they should be. And it was very noticeable. And so in 22-23, we implemented the pre-K foundations. And we also have Hegarty at Hamilton Avenue. And then those of you that were on the board, remember we put in pre-K creative curriculum in 23-24. And if you talk to, especially in our Title I schools, and ask them if they've seen a difference of the children when they're entering kindergarten, I know at HAMAB they will tell you it's like night and day. And so I just want to mention pre-K. And David Rabin, who with United Way has really supported a lot of early childhood programming from birth to 3 and then also at the pre-K level. And he will be at our next Board of Education meeting to update us too.
Any last questions? Go ahead, Brian.
It's not a question. I just want to say thank you. I was so impressed by that slide and that video and everything you guys presented tonight and all the work that all the teachers are doing and all the thoughtful questions here. I was just really impressed and I wanted to thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as a board, the one wondering, so there's we don't spend enough time because we've got lots of other things, but I do know that, like I alluded to earlier, some of these conversations are happening in other areas, like the curriculum committees looking at some things. It might make a sense for some of the data you suggested for the strategic plan committee to look at that because it's tied to that. We kept this on the agenda this year in this place. This was the math STEM report. And then last year I remember saying, well, why don't we just talk about math STEM every year? And now I think the question is, why do we have it at this point in the year and not after we have like mid-year data and things? So that might be something as a board we think about next year. I think this made a lot of sense, particularly with so many board members to go on this search this year, but it might be something to think about for next year. And with that,
It was very helpful for us newbies. Very good.
Just as we think about this for next year, I would like to suggest that we allocate considerably more time. I think educating kids is the most important responsibility we have. And I think we should not be spending less time talking about academics than we do the pool.
Thank you. Here, here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Mike, are we staying in this space? Okay, just because I want to make sure that if we close out this, either we close this out or we,
If I had a couple of follow-up questions, but my thought was that I could ask them. I didn't need like the whole public setting for them. So email them specific, they were like specific to ELA questions. I was just interested. So I send them directly to you and then you, right, I will do that at some point.
That is the Hirsch McCarthy Anthony involved, is that we always send, we always have, both of us generate lots of questions and only some of them are asked publicly, but they get them all. I usually send them. Yeah, I usually send them ahead of time, actually, so they know what we're doing. So it's not, we're not in the gotcha business. So if I have questions, I usually send them all out and then I say, hey, tonight I might want to talk about this.
It's still recording now. It's not. As I was going through that video last night, one of the helpful, I mean, as I gather questions, send them ahead of time.
You can, it's up to you. Yeah. We can
Great.
talk about it. That's-
Well, we're missing a few members, so when they come back, I can happily make that motion, but that's why I was asking if we were staying in here, or if we were going to another room.
Yeah, I didn't know, but then
I'm not sure either. We are still in our
we're still
retreat meeting, and
technically in an open session.
we're waiting just for other members to return to the table before we make a motion to move into executive session, right?
What reports are you getting?
Actually, very few.
Very few. We were launching straws today.
Good. Okay. He's still in the story. Months like last time. All right.
I was also gonna, I guess I can make a little note that thank you for the budget. And more importantly, I was gonna ask, I don't think we've gotten our parking passes for this year.
Oh.
We did?
You have that.
Oh, okay.
The
that's
first
why.
meeting, we
Thank
got
you.
them.
It was a meeting I wasn't here. That's why. Okay. Yeah, so I was just trying to figure out if it was just me.
I have,
No, you get a new one every year.
Erin was on Zoom that meeting, so I took hers.
Dun, 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 da, da, da.
Are you trying to tell us you're a Karen?
I think we have quorum. Would you like,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session to discuss pending legal matters
Fair
and
enough.
special education.
Okay.
I can second that.
Okay. Karen, all right, seconded. Yeah, all in favor of moving into executive session? Okay.
Can you see the guys go?
And we also need to make sure this is logged off publicly now, or are we
Okay.
putting?
It's going to be
What is the final count? Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6,
I
0?
think it is, I think it is 6.
Or I don't see,
I don't think Mr. Capiali is on the moment. Oh, it's 7. 8. Okay, it is, yep, he just raised his hand. Okay, so 8-0. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna turn on.
Do we have to have it?
Wendy, are you there?
Look, I'm not talking about killing a deer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
Are they gonna let us in?
I would hope so. We just voted for executive session.
I don't
Michael's
know.
probably on, if
Yeah,
he can hear us.
yeah, I think they probably can.
Michael, are you there? Antonaccio.
I'm not.
I don't know if I would have voted for executive session if I wasn't going to be involved.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to send a text.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, like zooming in away, it's like a. Are you logging in? I can't hear you.
All right, so we have exited executive session on singular emotion. We have exited executive session. No votes have been taken. Does anybody have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Mr. Cheney makes a motion, Ms. Hurst seconds, all in favor. 1, 2, 3. So
Have a
that
great
is six-
vacation.
that is 6 no. Paul and Wendy have exited the meeting. Okay, thanks, everybody.